So in this section, we are going to talk about the standardized test policies that most colleges will have for this upcoming school year. Standardized tests, along with the college visit process over the spring and summer of the past year, are probably the two areas of the college planning process that have been most impacted by the virus. In a normal year, every college will still have a standardized test policy that they would share with their applicants. Many colleges, even in previous years, were what's called test optional, meaning students could apply to a specific school if they were test optional, and they would not need to submit test scores in order to have their application reviewed. This year, because of the difficulties and challenges in scheduling and ultimately taking standardized tests, and specifically, I mean the SAT or the ACT tests over the spring and the summer, many colleges that were previously not test optional have elected to offer a test optional admissions policy for this upcoming school year. What this means for students is as they build their college list and start looking at the specific application requirements that each individual college has, they should look at the test policy their colleges have for this upcoming school year. There are a few terminology phrases that many colleges are using relative to requiring or not requiring standardized tests, the most common of which is test optional. Even colleges, though, that are test optional may encourage students to submit test scores if they have them for areas of consideration around financial aid, or in some instances for selective application or major requirements. More often than not, though, if a college has elected to be test optional for this year, it is universal for their entire admissions process. We know that many kids were able to take the school-based SAT that we were able to offer earlier in September. We're expecting those scores to be released to students in mid-October, on October 15th. What will happen? Students will receive an email from College Board to the email they register their account with. From that point, they'll be able to log into their College Board account and view their standardized test scores. And basically, what we're encouraging kids to do, if they are able to access their scores before their application deadlines, we'd like them to look at the scores and compare them to the average scores the colleges they're applying to would expect to see. If their scores are below the typical test scores sent to a given college, and that college is allowing your child to apply test optional, even though they have test scores, they still should elect to apply test optional. Having taken the test does not mean they have to send the scores if the college is not requiring them to send scores. Only in the instance that they have been able to take the SATs or the ACTs, and they have performed well enough that the scores match or exceed the expectations of the colleges they're considering, should they then elect to send scores. If your child is sending scores, what they're going to do is designate correctly in the college's member questions within the application that they are sending scores. If it's a common application, as Ms. Carney has showed you in a previous section of this presentation, they would be able to self-report what those scores are, but they also need to officially send those scores through the testing website, either College Board or ACT. Submitting the request on College Board and ACT does not instantly mean the college receives those scores. Typically, there is a processing delay between when students submit the request to send scores to colleges and when colleges ultimately receive those test scores. So, in other words, once your child knows that they want to send test scores to a given college, they should do that right away to avoid any processing delays that might result in their application review being delayed as well. If you or your child has specific questions about standardized tests or how to apply to a college given their testing policy for the school year, we strongly encourage you to feel free to ask us in the guidance office. This is one of the more common questions we are getting for this current school year, because this process in particular is so unique for our current seniors compared to students and families that have had college applications in years past. We are happy to try and try and advise students as best as possible how to navigate the process. And more often than not, we are finding that even if students were able to take a standardized test, and most, if they were able to, have only taken one, they are still applying test optional. So most students are applying test optional to most, if not all, of the colleges on their list for this upcoming school year. That is probably the norm for this current school year. But again, it does not necessarily mean that is universally the case for every student applying to every college. So please let us know if you or your child has questions about standardized testing at any point between now and when their applications are being submitted.